Genesis House and the Friends in Recovery podcast are proud to bring you Answering the Call, the First Responder podcast. Join your hosts, Mike the Podfather and Jersey Ed, as they address the real issues in health and wellness for first responders. From physical and mental health to relationships and work-life balance, we leave no stone unturned. Answering the Call, the First Responder podcast is available on Facebook, Podbean, iTunes, and YouTube, as well as iHeartRadio. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Now, here are your friends in recovery answering the calls.
Hey everybody, welcome to Answering the Call, the First Responders podcast. I am the Podfather, Mike Miles, and I'm here with
Jersey Ed guys over in Studio G. I just had a sip of club soda and I'm making a mess of the microphone. But I'm all bubbly here. Yeah. Real quick, we're gonna have Rick Lange on the show. Rick Lange, Rick Lange, guys. Yeah, I got him, man. I had to go through hoops and people and you name it, we had to do it. So we got him on the show. So stay tuned after this senseless babble that you're gonna hear from me and the Podfather. We will bring Rick Lange on.
Rick's uncle, Jack Lange. He used to have a TV show.
He did, yes. We'll talk to him more about Jack when his uncle when he comes on. So speaking of Jack Lange, that doesn't mean anything. But how you been, Podfather? This is gonna be one of those shows, man.
Actually, I've been exercising a lot lately. I've been doing a lot of push-ups, a lot of free weights, not crazy free weights, just enough to tone up. I don't want to be going into my 70s with droopy pecs and boobs and double chins and all that. So yeah, I've been working out a little bit, walking and enjoying this beautiful fall weather, and feeling good, feeling pretty good.
You lost a lot of weight too. I mean, we talked about that, but you lost a lot of weight and you work hard at doing your thing, Podfather. So
I feel good. I feel really good. For being this age, I always look at people when I was younger, and I dreaded going into my 60s. Now I'm looking at going into my 70s, and it's a few years away, but anyway, I think a day at a time. I can squeeze in some exercise, a little meditation, a little stretching, yoga.
And that's what this show is about, is the health and wellness of first responders. You're a first responder and you're taking care of your health and wellness in your 60s now. So
that's correct. That's correct.
Yeah. And listen, guys, you have to take care of your health and wellness. Anytime, and that's why we do the show, Podfather, because there is no other show out there like this. There are shows out there for first responders, maybe even specific first responders, but the health and wellness, I mean, and we try to focus on the mental health too here on the show. And that's really, really important because as you know, Podfather and the first responders listening, it's that's a tough one is the mental health being in that kind of job, correct?
Yes, I can remember being in the police academy in 1980, January 1980, and the 3 months of the academy at the time it was 3 months. Now it's 6 months, but I remember no one actually told me I might be seeing some horrific things that would be etched in my mind the rest of my life. Even when I was in the military police in the army, again, I learned how to handle myself and to break up barroom fights and how to handcuff people, but no one said you might see some traumatic incidents that are going to be etched in your mind and you'll remember them for the next 50 years. No one ever said that, but here we are, and they are. But mental health, it's very important because, if you don't take care of yourself mentally, physically, spiritually, as you go through this job, any job, police, fire, corrections, veterans, EMS, I mean, they handle things that most people aren't going to ever get an opportunity to be involved in, or let alone see.
Exactly.
So.
Yeah. And speaking of mental health and taking care of himself, Rick Lange is our guest on our show today. And thank you for joining us, Rick. Rick has been in public safety since 1992. He's been in fire for about a year, EMS 7 years, dispatch 25 years plus, law enforcement 28 years. Rick is currently at emergency management. He's been there the past 6 years as a response equipment specialist. And guys, here's the good thing about Rick. He works with the AT&T Firstnet, built by AT&T system. and he had nothing but praises to say about it since him and I've been talking and trying to get him on the show. And when he said he uses AT&T, I'm like, yeah, we got to get you on the show. And so we have a great sponsor now, and they are AT&T, the FirstNet built by AT&T. Rick Lange, welcome to the show.
Hey, Rick.
Hey, gentlemen. How's it going?
Let me re-say that. The Rick Lange, welcome to the show.
The only Rick Lange sitting in this room right now.
That's right. Let me tell you, I had to jump through hoops and jumps and everything to get your publicist to get you on this show.
And you have people call his people.
That's right.
So you know what? I understand that. And speaking of understanding and jumping through things, I just took off my exercise leotard.
Well,
my uncle,
your uncle Jack
LaLanne.
He's French, you're not. But Rick, you and I had some meetings in the past trying to, some phone calls and stuff, and you are serious about your health and your wellness and being a first responder and being in the position you're in now. Well, not this position, but the positions in the past. I don't think you would have been able to be where you're at today if you didn't take care of yourself mentally, physically, and spiritually as you did. You want to talk a little bit about that?
So, yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, actually, because I actually started in 82, not 92. I'm not, otherwise I would have stuffed a lot of stuff into a very small package there, but I had no idea.
Publicist, fire him again, right?
Again. Like the Podfather said, I wasn't prepared for the things that I was going to see and be exposed to when I was young. And I spent a lot of time going to a lot of calls about a lot of different things and seeing a lot of things normal people shouldn't see. Police department, fire department, EMS. And it took me, I had one specific incident. I had a kid kill himself with a gun while I was chasing after him. And I was actually, he actually pointed the gun at me. And I think that was my first clue. But several years later, when I came to the realization that a 13-year-old kid can kill you with a gun, and this was in the early 90s, and, nobody ever looked at that kind of stuff back then. It wasn't a big deal back then. I lived in a small town. I worked in a relatively small town. But I think when I came to that realization was when I finally, because I couldn't sleep and I couldn't eat, and the common PTSD sort of problems that I was having that I had no idea was PTSD at the time. But when I finally talked to somebody about it, and they pointed out to me what it was, because I thought I was going nuts, it turns out this is a pretty normal thing for responders to have. But I was really glad that I talked to somebody about it. And if I can't say anything else about it, I would say when you're experiencing those issues, can't sleep, drink too much, all of those sorts of things, please, for the love of God, go talk to somebody.
Oh yeah, absolutely. 100%. And that's what AT&T, that's why they paired with us, is because they want the first responders' health and wellness, and they like, they really liked our show about the wellness and the health and wellness of them. So that's why they partnered up with us. Rick, talk about PTSD. When you said you had no clue, and Podfather, I'm sure you can understand this too, way back when, you guys probably had no clue what PTSD was. You probably had no debriefings. You had no, time that you have to go to therapy. Now if you're getting chased by a 13-year-old with a gun and he starts firing at you, you're completely taken off the job and you're debriefed and you're going into different therapy and stuff. Way back when, no clue. Let us know. Talk to us about that.
So in my situation anyway, no one knew anything about debriefings, critical incident stress debriefings, anything like that. So the critical incident stress debrief after that incident was someone asking me if I felt okay, and I didn't know how to feel. I had no idea. That was the most traumatic thing I'd ever been through. And then said, all right, finish your report and hit the streets. Let's get on. You're a cop. This is what you do. So like I said, it took a long time to realize some of the experience, or some of the problems that I was experiencing. And then we had a lady come in one day to talk to us about not necessarily critical incident stress debriefs, but health and wellness kind of stuff. And she was, rattling off some symptoms of PTSD, which I had never heard of at that point. And as she's rattling them off, I'm checking them off my list. Yep. She did a thing for me called EMDR, which is a rapid eye movement sort of thing. You guys, I'm sure you've talked about it before.
Yeah, we do that. We do that at Genesis house too. Absolutely. Yeah.
That was a lifesaver, literally a lifesaver for me. That was the greatest experience I'd ever had.
It's amazing.
In therapy. Yeah.
Really is. I want to chime in on the PTSD.
Please.
So back in the 80s, involved in a few things, a couple suicides, hangings, shootings. But again, nobody, you just went on to your next call. Once you had done your paperwork, then you'd meet after work, slug down a few beers, and everybody would want to know what happened, and you'd process it that way. I had the opportunity to study under Dr. Mitchell, Jeffrey Mitchell. He was a firefighter out of Pittsburgh, and he kind of looked at PTSD for firefighters, and he started getting his education and learning how to help firefighters cope with what they saw at horrific fires. There was a fire in Lowell several years ago where 5 people were burnt to death, a family, and I was the EAP at the time, and I had to sit with some of these brand new police officers. One of them was on probation, and he's the one who found the fire. And he was in a healthy state of mind. And when we talked about PTSD, several weeks later, I met with him again, and he said, you were right, Mike. It really hadn't hit me until about 4 or 5 weeks when I was putting my little one to bed, and my wife's expecting twins, and we went on and on about it. But when I went to the seminar with Dr. Mitchell, Jeffrey Mitchell, and actually heard all about PTSD, and then about Vietnam veterans, how they were being treated, it just rang a bell with me. So I feel fortunate to say that that's how I got my education, and it just, it is what it is. I mean, they do tell you now when you're in the academy, you might come across things that are going to be disturbing and etched in your mind forever. Where at one time they never talked about that.
Yeah, true. Rick, so what are you doing now? Response management, is that what you're doing now?
So I have this distinct opportunity to work for the emergency management, the county emergency management, County Emergency Management Office in Dane County in Madison, Wisconsin. And so my responsibilities include taking care of a fleet of vehicles, including what I'm sitting in right now is our 36-foot mobile command post. And we have several other vehicles. And then I program radios and take care of radios and inventory radios and talk on radios a lot. But they also make me fly drones as part of my job. It's a horrible existence.
God, what terrible. A bad job. They make you fly drones.
It is we had an intern in our office a couple years ago who described, when I was telling her what I did, she said, you don't have a job, you have a hobby and you get paid for it. And she's absolutely right. This is the greatest gig ever. And it's, the good news is it ties together everything that I've done, the law enforcement, the dispatch and 911, the firefighting and EMS, and everything comes together for this. So when we go out in this vehicle to a major scene, I know at least some of the people anymore, I'm old, so a lot of those people are retired, but I know what they want and what they need, generally speaking. And it's a great gig. Love it.
It's funny. Your resume is just very, it's intense, but it's also chock full of, just about everything you can do in the line of work as a policeman or a fireman or an EMS. I mean, you have vast knowledge and experience, and in communications too. And it's so funny. And now you're doing drones, which to me, I wouldn't even know how to get it off the ground. You know, I mean, it's amazing.
Throw it.
Yeah.
I don't think you would be throwing those drones, right?
I have a hard time with a kite on a windy day on a bare beach, you know. But I've seen a lot of drone film, and it's just amazing that technology alone, what it can do, you know, and to help law enforcement. It's funny how law enforcement keeps, and fire, they continue to grow, and EMS as well. And as you know, decades go on, there's more tools to their accessibility. And as far as with you go, you know, with what you're able to do with your experience, they must love having you.
It's good, and I generally am accepted, which is nice, which is part of it. We have in our county anyway, and actually in the state, we have this what's called a drone network, and so we have kind of one person in charge of everything for the state. And then when there's a call out for it, we work very closely with winged and our fixed winged and rotary aircraft as well. We fly together in the same airspace all the time. And so they'll call all of us together and we'll go out and fly missions together. And depending on where it is in the state, there are, you know, trained people throughout the state that can go out and do this. And it's been a wonderful experience. We have police, fire, EMS folks, and then we have civilians that come out and help too. And pretty amazing people out there.
Rick, we're going to take a quick break here, but I just want to remind you of one thing, okay? You're sitting in a 36-foot command center vehicle in the middle of Wisconsin, nice and warm, and we probably have some first responders in their car sloshing down a hamburger right now, and a Diet Coke trying to run to the next But this is what you earned. You got to this level, and those guys can get there too. So after the break, I want to talk a little bit about that, a little more of your experience. I also want to talk about FirstNet, built by AT&T. You do use their system. I want to go over that a little bit too, and of course more of the drone stuff when we come back.
You're first. First to respond. First to put others' lives before your own. And in an emergency, you need a network that puts you first, that connects you to technology, to each other, and to other agencies. Built with and for first responders. FirstNet, the only congressionally authorized wireless network for first responders. Because putting you first is our job.
Since 1992, Genesis House has been helping real people heal from addiction on their private recovery campus in beautiful Palm Beach County, Florida. Their family-owned program is accredited by the Joint Commission and offers detox and dual diagnosis treatment in a comfortable and confidential setting. At Genesis House, they focus on treating the underlying causes of addiction. Their comprehensive approach includes psychiatric care, individual and small group therapy, trauma healing techniques, and holistic care including yoga, massage, and animal-assisted therapy. After treatment, their clients enjoy the lifelong support of a nationwide network of Genesis House alumni. Call Genesis House today at 1-800-737-0933 to speak with someone who understands. Visit them on the web at www.genesishouse.net. It's time to start your journey to a long and successful recovery.
Hey everybody, welcome back. Answering the call, First Responders Podcast. I am the Podfather, Mike Miles.
Jersey Ed here with our guest Rick Lange, who we're going to talk
Lange.
about. Rick Lange, the Rick Lange. So we're going to talk to him in a second. How did we ever come up with that? The Rick Lange, the one and only. How did we do that?
Is he a professional wrestler at one time?
I don't know. He's something. So, but real quick, I want to talk to everybody. What we normally talk about on here right after the break is the copline.org, guys. Really good cause, really good services that Copline puts together. Copline.org or 1-800-COPLINE. That's 1-800-267-5463. They're also doing a run for the call New Year's Eve. If you go to copline.org, You can run for the call, and you can register to get on their. It's. I think they're doing a 5K in New Year's Eve, so it's pretty cool. Check that out. And Podfather, they also they have retired police officers that are on this line that take these calls. That if there's something, just like we were talking about PTSD or whatever, they're there to listen to you. It's just an amazing. Resource for somebody who might be might be suffering. So if you think you're suffering from some of this stuff, give Copline a call, and that'll be all in the show notes too. Rick Lange, the Rick Lange, we've got him. He's here. He's amazing. Welcome back to the show, Rick. I know you said something about Firstnet, that you do use Firstnet. You want to give us a little bit about what's going on with Firstnet and how you're using them, and what's going, how you like the system.
So Firstnet, if I may, just a little history. Firstnet and I have a history. And that is that when I started in the position that I'm in right now, I was hired under a grant, and part of that grant funding was for the Firstnet system. It wasn't called Firstnet at the time. Well, the grant was something different, but essentially what I was doing is going around to people in the southwest part of the state, different response agencies, and talking to them about Firstnet and the promise of Firstnet and the goals of Firstnet. So I've been around Firstnet for a while. I'm very excited to see where they're going, where they're headed, where they've come from. And so we had a concert on the farm last summer, pre-COVID, when you could actually get together and see people outside and things. But we had this concert, and we had a couple of cell on wheels cows, we call them, put together. And as soon as all the people showed up at the concert, we lost our cell signal. Oof. We didn't have Firstnet yet. So we immediately put Firstnet in this truck. All of our staff have Firstnet phones. I've had nothing but success and luck with Firstnet. I love the coverage of it. And I know that they continue to build their systems out every day. They're building something else out. So it's an amazing system. It's amazing for first responders. I hope that people realize the significance of it. Having our own system for wireless is just amazing to me.
Huge. And what I like, and when Ed called me and said that we were sought by Firstnet they wanted to sponsor the show, they answering the call. And I was like, well, wait a minute. They're really not into law enforcement, but they want to lend assistance to officers, and family members and people involved in, first responders. I mean, that speaks volumes to me, because I come from an era of 34 years where, you were scratching and clawing just to get help for one person, for yourself, and to have a huge, company offer their assistance for the men and women that are on the front lines, and caring about their mental health and physical well-being, just speaks volumes about the type of people that are there. And we know in law enforcement, the media will come to the funerals, and they love the bagpipes, and they love all the cops that, converge on a small town if a police officer is killed in the line of duty, and they rave at how these cops come from all over the country, and the next day they're gone. Mm-hmm. And the first time a cop does something that they suspect might not be by the book, or they don't even know, boy, they're all over it. Mm-hmm. But so for me, it's good to see somebody who really, outside of law enforcement, want to contribute where it's needed.
Mm. Well, let me explain what Firstnet is. And if you go back a couple shows and you listen to our show with the doctor from Firstnet who got all this together for us, Firstnet, and correct me if I'm wrong, Rick, because this is what I understand. Firstnet is a specific network built just for the first responders. You have to be a first responder and have their phone. You have to show your credentials and all that. Only first responders. And if any of these, if me as a civilian, if my system goes down, your system is still working. So if there's some major thing going on and my cell phone goes, you can still phone, and call and whatever that truck does there. I don't know the technical stuff it does, but that's still in operation and there is no downtime at all. Is that correct?
Right. That is that's the whole plan. It's kind of like our own lane on the interstate.
That's
so
cool.
Everybody else is blocked up, but our lane's still traveling freely.
That's cool. That's really cool. It's amazing. And of course they're on this show to promote the health and wellness of the first responders too. So guys, check out, the commercial. How great was that commercial? I mean, it's amazing, right? That commercial was so good, but check it out. Check out FirstNet and first responders. You guys can get on your own highway. I want to get back to drones. We very touched them because now we got all the first responders in their car in the freezing cold, walking probably to the beat or whatever, and you're in this nice warm thing and flying drones. Let's rub it into their face a little bit more while you're at it, So,
well, so
drone stuff.
While I appreciate that you're thinking I'm in a vehicle that's nice and warm. First, I didn't turn the heat on so that I could suffer through.
Yeah, neither did I.
Right now in Wisconsin, it's sleeting. So,
wow.
But when I fly a drone, I have to be outside. So this vehicle in particular is set up really nicely where we can us folks who do the actual work. We'll be outside flying the drone. We have to watch the drone. We have to control the drone, but we'll plug in the controller into the network in our truck so that the important people can be inside where it's warm, or, if it's cold out, or if it's warm outside, they can be in the air conditioning, but then they can watch the screen on a 50-inch screen or a 55-inch screen instead of watching it on a little 4 or 6-inch screen that we're looking at. But we do a lot of things with the drones. So our system, our drone program started pretty small with just a single drone, and we wanted to use it primarily for damage assessment, because in emergency management, that's one of the things that we really want to do. So you can get up 400 feet in the air and you can see a path of a tornado from 400, or you can determine that there wasn't a tornado based on, the type of damage that you see. So we'll fly, the weather service will join us, and they'll be able to see from the air what we see, which is really a nice thing for us to do. But we also go out and assist with search and rescue type things. Those are really the two biggest things we do.
Sure.
And you can see an awful lot from 400 feet in the air, 3 or 200, whatever it is. But then we'll add a forward-looking infrared, a FLIR camera on it. Day or night. You can pick up a lot of things with that as well, especially now that the trees have lost their leaves. We can see a whole lot into the fields and into the woods with our FLIR cameras that you can't see from, unless you're up in the air and able to have that kind of bird's eye view.
So this gives when you were talking about the people in the warm watching the bigger screens, you're talking about the agencies that call upon you to fly the drones, whatever they need. Is that what you were talking about earlier?
Yeah, the important people. So we'll be out flying with a cop looking over our shoulder, watching the screen to say, hey, let's go look at this, or hey, maybe we should look at that. And then we can project that screen, that same view, inside the truck so that people can see the bigger view, much bigger view. And the difference between a 4 or 6 inch screen and a 55-inch screen is significant. We did some training with a local dive team, and we put a diver out in the water and tried to identify them, and we couldn't see anything with the small screen, but with the big screen, we could pick right out where the diver was, so we could send help into them.
Wow, that's cool. That's
cool. It is.
Great
asset, real great asset.
Absolutely.
It is.
I know before we came on, I asked you to think about a story about a drone and where it saved a life or where it helped out. Did you think of anything as far as that goes? Do you have a happy ending story where it helped somebody?
Well, sure, we get out and do a lot of things, but one in particular just down the street from where I am right now, where a kid with autism took off from the house and was running through a marsh. And I was up, we got called kind of late, so I was up late, but I was up just in time to find the kid on a bridge through the marsh. But I found him at the same time that the deputy who was chasing him through the marsh found him. So I just relinquished the credit for that find because the deputy was all hot and sweaty, and he did all the work. All I did was, get out of my truck and start the drone and put it in the air. So, but we actually had a recent case in the middle part of our state where there was a 3-year-old who was missing, and the drone operator got up with a FLIR and found the kid in a field where the kid was lost and not moving. Where it would have taken, probably hundreds of people to walk through fields and woods to try to find the kid. And this guy was up in a matter of 5 minutes. Now, I understand that some of that is just luck, and we understand that. We just get that. But in a matter of 5 minutes, he had the kid waving to him on the camera to send help into him. And the nice thing is you can hover right over the kid. The responders can hear the drone. They can walk right up to the drone and find what they need to find. So a lot of really neat things that we do with those drones.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
Yeah. Well, you say luck. I don't say it's luck. I say it's you're widening the odds because you have this drone flying above things that we normally can't see, and that could be a matter of life and death at sometimes for the police officer or for the person that you're looking for. True.
So we had an incident, an armed burglary of a gun store not far from here where we had several drone teams out there, and we were running air cover for the SWAT teams as they were traipsing through woods and things. And we had a lot of good positive feedback about the ability for us to do the overwatch from up in the air with FLIR to see what the SWAT guys and gals are running into and let them know before they get in there. So we do a lot of work with our first response folks, a lot of radio communications back and forth, which of course is, right up my alley. But a lot of coordination. So It's not just a drone, it's a drone. And if we have aircraft in the air, it's the aircraft talking to the drones. We're talking back and forth. And then with the folks on the beat as well out there finding what they're looking for, what they're finding.
Oh, technology is amazing, huh? It's just amazing. Yeah. Well, Rick Lange, we're running short on time here. Thank you I should say the Rick Lange. Thank you for coming onto the show. I'm sure you can Google Rick and he'll be coming up in all kinds of articles and all kinds of things, and you'll be able to find him. But if you do want to give us a call about Rick, you can call the show at 617-379-1163 or email us at help@friendsandrecoverypodcast.com. That's help@friendsandrecoverypodcast.com. Ask some questions. We'll make sure we get Rick those questions. And Rick, we'd love to have you back on the show. Maybe maybe a field experiment. Maybe you can get AT&T to approve a field, or your bosses where we can fly a drone on the show so everybody can watch. So what do you think?
Hey, that'd be fun. Now I'm running short too. I got to get out with my Uncle Jack and do some more exercises. So
well, you go do that. I'm going to have a talk with the Podfather here. And Rick Lange, thank you so much.
Thanks a lot, Rick.
Gentlemen.
See you again soon.
Well, Podfather.
Another great guest. Ed.
What if you had a drone, Podfather, and a drone and the Firstnet access? How would your life would be so much different, huh?
I'm loving the Firstnet. Just thinking about it, and because as you know, the weather can throw people in a tailspin for several days. When equipment goes down, it's down, and if you don't have access to a some type of communication, and communication is everything, especially in law enforcement and fire and EMS. I mean, you have to communicate because everything is done away from the station, so to speak. So
do you have a story, Podfather, as Rick did, where a drone could have saved somebody or made your life easier?
Sure.
I'm sure your mind was racing as Rick was talking, and I could have did this with that, or we could have did this with that.
I had a real close friend. He was a correctional officer, and he had a problem with alcohol. He was a very likable guy. He had a family. He was a client of mine for several weeks. Pardon me, that was my phone. And he got lost. Well, they couldn't find him. He lived in a wooded area, and one of his children had seen him go out in the woods. He had been drinking, and they didn't find him for about a day and a half, and he had succumbed to the elements. And they looked vigorously for him. And when they did find him, he was pretty close to home. If they had had a drone, this was several years ago, about 13 years ago. If they had had a drone, absolutely, they would have seen him. Because the woods, there was a swamp and everything. It was pretty thick. So, even going through on foot, a half a dozen people looking, they didn't find him right away. But when they did find him, he had succumbed to the elements.
Yeah.
And I was thinking of that when Rick was talking. And I've been on looking for lost children, and it's probably one of the scariest things you're doing, because that time is not on your side. You have to find that child quickly. So.
Yeah, well, thank God for AT&T, the FirstNet built by AT&T, and drones. This was a great educational show for me, for sure. I'm sure for you too, Podfather.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So we're definitely gonna have Rick back on, man. Maybe he's just a wealth of knowledge, and he's just a great guy. He's the Rick Lange, anyways. We have to have the Rick Lange back on, guys. Podfather, thank you so much. Great show, and you want to take us out?
As usual, you always pick some good guests. You get some good guests, and that's I gotta compliment you on that. Rick was great.
Thank you.
This is Answering the Call, the First Responders podcast, and
stay safe, everybody.
There you go.
Got it this time.